Micah Parsons did get drafted, somebody that was a favorite of ours here at the Juke. And we spoke to LeVar Arrington before the draft about how he was prepping Parsons to get ready. And a spot that I didn't think he was going to go was Dallas. But Dallas, with the two corners going in front of them, decided to still go defense, which I like, and go with potentially the guy with the highest upside, linebacker Parsons out of Penn State. Your thoughts?
I'm in love with this pick. As we know, last year I had problems with Dallas. It bothered me deeply to my core that there was no D in Dallas. And it was so painful to watch that the Dallas Cowboys went from, Dallas Cowboys to the Alice Cowboys. No D, and it was painful. So what did we do? We got a guy who can do a lot, right? Like tremendous upside on Parsons, sideline to sideline, can help you in the run game, can also help you in the pass game, and can come off the edge. LeVar Arrington said he has that it factor. He could be that guy. And now you're putting him with the Jaden Smith. You're putting him with, what's his name?
Leighton Vander Esch.
Thank you, Vander Esch. I was about to call him Gary Vanderchuk, right? No, not Gary B. Gary B is not on the Dallas Cowboys, though he might like to be.
He would be on the Jets.
I know, Gary B wants to buy the Jets, but that was the name that was sticking in my head as like, oh, you're playing with Vanderchuk? No, he would just tell you where to go and how to reach your maximum potential.
Yes.
Okay? So we'd have a highlight reel from life if that was it. But with Vander Esch, with Jalen Smith, and with Parsons, you're now seeing guys that can't be shut down. When I talked to Isaiah Stanback, he said, if you take a defensive end, I can chip you, I can make your life difficult. If you take a corner, I can throw to the other side. But those guys in the middle that are sidelines to sidelines can create real mismatch situations, and they're really hard to shut down. And coming from my linebacker roots, I can't help but say, this defense, if everybody can stay healthy with those three guys in the middle, there's going to be a lot of versatility and there is a lot of hustle. So you're going to have big problems as long as everybody's healthy and happy, right? We're not disgruntled, but we do have a new DC. So that should be good. I like this pick from the Dallas Cowboys. The one knock on Parsons was that he once upon a time had some character concerns and some immaturity. But we are assured that that was a thing of the past. Though they do appear to love him. Jerry Jones was like all over it. And he is a jokester. So we could see that energy and that, kind of spirit in the locker room and in the huddle, hopefully give an upgrade to that Dallas Cowboys defense that has been at best a bit stale.
Yes. And you could see his energy on the stage when he just bear hugged Roger Goodell and lifted him off the ground. By the way, impressive Roger Goodell landed on his feet after. That was pretty impressive. But I totally agree.
He's going to sit into the chair after.
Yeah, he was going to be like, I need a break, sit in the chair. But Micah Parsons, I think, is going to be a major boost. I mean, we saw just a couple of years ago with this defense, the boost that Leighton Vander Esch gave them at linebacker to pair up with Jalen Smith. And they were one of the better defenses at that time. I think it's huge that they got Dan Quinn. I was listening to Dan Quinn's post-draft press conference. He was talking about how they may play more in their base packages, a little bit more 3-4, because some of their strength is at linebacker, and Parsons' ability to play on the edge may be, pretty interesting there. But of course, in the nickel packages, which is where they're going to play most of the time, it's going to be, interesting to see how they use those three linebackers in that system, whether he'll play edge or he'll play, linebacker, maybe, three-man fronts more often. I don't know. How would you look to run that defense just with that personnel?
Well, it depends. I want all of those guys on the field. Okay. So if we go into a nickel package and you're going to assume that then we're putting in a DB for one of our linebackers, that's when you take Parsons and you use him as a rush end, right? Mm-hmm. Then that's when you use him creatively. And so you don't even necessarily have to show it as much, right? Because he's still on the field, but you could play around with what's like a mobile almost like a 3-3. If you had like a 3-3 stack, then you don't have to give away who's coming or from where. Makes it a little harder for them to get their reads, but allows us to bring in that extra guy, right? And then whether you have an off the ball rusher, right, who comes in and pressures the edge, because obviously if you're going into nickel, it is a passing down. Just FYI, guys, like when we say nickel, that means we're pulling one of the linebackers and going with 5 DBs. So we're expecting them to throw the ball. So we're not as worried about the big guys in the middle, but we are worried about the get after the quarterback. So that's when a multiple guy like Micah Parsons allows you to not necessarily have to pull him off the field in exchange for a DB, but allows you to keep those sideline to sideline guys who are your more mobile like linebackers, and allows you to kind of just shift how you're using them to shore up that outside contain and that get after the quarterback. So that's what I see. I would see like whether you line them up 3-3 stack, or you're saying it's 4-2, or you're just 3-4-ish, you know, with the angles just changing and walking that linebacker up. I think that's where he becomes really useful.
Yeah, even maybe bringing like Keanu Neal down, who is basically a safety, but they want to play him kind of more at linebacker. So you could have, you know, it is like 3 linebackers, but it's like 4 at the same time. So yeah, you could play around with that. And I would, if I was Dallas and Dan Quinn, and I'm excited for Dan Quinn because a lot of these years he's been playing, you know, the same style of defense. And I like that he's going to be able to switch it up and try some new things here with some creativity. I would be looking at the Bucs and what they do with Devin White and try to do the similar thing with the blitzing and just allowing him to be the athlete that he is, flowing sideline to sideline that way. I think it's going to be exciting for that defense.
Yeah, I think one of the good things too that you can see when you have that many pieces, right? When you have a safety that you can walk down, obviously it switches up so that you can throw the defense off, whether they don't know if he's going to come all the way down or if he's just lining there to throw you off on what the coverage is, right? And then you also have multiple linebackers, which really I would say Jalen can do it. Parsons can do it. Van Der Esch, I kind of want more in that middle. Not as much of that, but he is still mobile and he's very smart. So you kind of use him as an anchor, and then you move the rest of it around with a safety coming in and a change up. Not likely in your nickel package, right? But definitely doing it on some of those other downs where you think you have an advantage. And you can blitz him and drop one of the opposite guys or one of the guys near him because they are mobile, right? And anytime you can do that and throw off the count, which is what the O-line is looking. So if they're counting and it's here, that's the way that the line is going to slide, and that's who they're going to be picking up. So anytime that you can make the offensive line miss their count, i.e. then problems where the running back maybe goes out and they should have stayed in, and some of those things on the pre-snap read, then you have chances for disruption in the system. And the more guys that you have that are multiple, the more you can do that. And again, you referenced Todd Bowles' defense. Todd Bowles' defense, one of the things about that TBD is that's what you're thinking every play. It's TBD. You're not exactly sure what they're doing because of how interchangeable different elements are. And it might be a responsibility that's consistent, but not the player who's doing it. So I think that they're going to have a lot of fun. I also think that Dan Quinn is going to have a lot more fun as a D coordinator. Yeah. If I were him, having been a head coach and having your defense be so disappointing last season with the Falcons and being a defensive guy, for me to get to focus on the defense, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you forgot about who you know. Right? Like he's going to be like, no, allow me to reintroduce myself. This is what I do is defense. And thank goodness, because the Dallas Cowboys need to do some defense this year.
Yeah, I think honestly, the defense in Dallas is the X factor of that division. If they can have a competent, not even great, competent defense with the offense that already exists and the advantage at quarterback that they have with Dak, they should win this division. So the X factor, I know that Dallas fans are used to throwing up the X factor should be Parsons in 2021.